Hello there. My name is Linda Watson, and welcome to Inspire Me Equine, a season of the podcast Inspire Me Forward. I am the founder and the host of this sacred circle. Recently, it came into our hearts that Equine Leadership and Inspire Me Forward should collaborate. Equine Leadership is a publication of short stories sharing the voice and wisdom of the horse. It is now going into its 11th year. Inspire Me Forward, in its third year, is a podcast sharing stories of life and all the pieces that hold it together, even when it might feel like it is falling apart. This moment in time seemed like the perfect evolution of the two. It felt natural to invite the horses and authors from Equine Leadership. In this space, they will share their own unique ways of bringing the voice and wisdom of the horse to the human world. And so, this season, we will delve into that horse-human relationship and the paradigm that is the herd in Inspire Me Equine. Equine Leadership has a unique vision. We believe that horses, living as close to nature as possible, can provide a paradigm of living that is clear, authentic, and heart-based. There is much to learn that is good for all of humanity, as well as the collective that we call Earth. Spending time observing and interacting with the paradigm of the horses is a move to simplify life, to connect with something profound and enlightening. Their natural way of life offers insight into our truest paths. When we step outside of the ring and into the herd, we experience a relationship of equity and compassion. So before we begin, let us take a moment to breathe, to connect our hearts with the present moment, and invite the horses to join us in this space. All right. Oh, I am so happy to be landed in this moment with the wonderful Kerri Lake. And I know the horses and the chipmunks and the crows and the birds and the winged ones and the ones that have everybody's here. I can feel that there's a essence of all beings here with that have come with you. And I am so happy to have you here with me today. So welcome, Kerri Lake.
Thank you, my dear friend. It's been so long since we've done a conversation like this. So I'm really looking forward to where we go and what we play with today.
Exactly. We stand at the beginning of the road, not knowing where the road goes. So, yeah. So maybe just a moment of just let us know where you are, who you're from, who you are, where you're from. Just a quick intro.
Okay. My name is Kerri Lake, and I live in California, just a little bit south of San Francisco on the coast. It's one of my favorite places on the planet, that California coast. And the work that has developed for me to share with the world is about facilitating humanity to reconnect their mind with their heart. That that was born of a deep question I asked of the horses when I was 11 or 12. And in feeling completely misheard, misunderstood, unseen as a sensitive person, but I always felt at home and like myself standing next to the horses. At that time, my family didn't have horses. I was really, really happy my parents paid for riding lessons. So that was my exposure. But anytime I was with them, I felt like myself. At home, not so much. So I would just connect through my heart when I was at home at our family house. I would connect through my heart with the horses. And I asked them directly one time, you guys, how do you do it? I mean, people don't see you, they don't recognize your beauty, they misunderstand you, they hurt you, they use you, they push you around to make you do what they want, and you keep giving to them. You still offer this space where people can feel okay as themselves. Teach me that.
Mhm.
Like how do I become that? How do I become a human with humans the way horses are with
Yeah.
humans? And that question really was the foundation of everything that I share and how I walk in the world at this time. So
Yeah.
there's just a little
I can
drop about
a
me.
drop of there, just a sprinkling. That's awesome. And to have that, I think so many can relate back to that time in their lives with horses. I started my riding lessons when I was 11, and I
Right.
remember those times of just coming out of that sort of place of the riding and that schedule of every week
Yeah.
and just going and being with them
Mm.
and it was a different space.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And riding programs are not set up. Maybe
Not at
it's
all.
changing now, because humans are changing a little bit and all of the
Mhm.
awareness that this community and others have been sharing. Maybe it's changing, and riding schools are offering um, space for students to simply be among
Mhm.
horses. But back in the day, no way. You show up for your lesson, you brush off your boots, you ride the horse, you put the horse away, and then you leave.
Exactly.
And myself, I honestly never cared about the riding.
Yeah.
I only rode because parents at that time were not paying for their children to sit on the ground underneath a herd of horses, right? Which is all I really wanted to do. And, I wonder how many people were aware of that when they were young,
Mhm. Mhm.
that it was even an option to be friends and not just ride.
Exactly.
That's always what it was for
For
me.
sure.
That they were
Yeah.
always my friends, and I wanted to just be in a friendship with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember I used to teach at a big barn, and the owner of the barn said, 1 week a year, the horses get off, but you still have to teach.
Mm.
That was my favorite week, and it was everybody else's favorite week after a few years because they actually got to touch the horse.
Right.
And we would take the horses out to the arena, one person and one horse, and they would stand there with their hands on the horse,
Mhm.
asking nothing of it but to stand there and accept love.
Mhm.
And it just became, oh, when's our week? When's that week?
Yeah.
And even the owner stepped in one day and took part because it was 1 week of connection that they
Yeah.
were, the horse was like, oh, we'd like this week too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, we could do this next week again.
Can we do this again? I'll offer 2 weeks off. So yeah, it was that different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So before we really dive in here, I wanted to just bring forward some of your articles because
Oh,
this
okay.
whole thing is a collaboration between Inspire Me Forward and Equine Leadership. And Kerri is one of our alumni authors, our wonderful alumni authors that has written several times for us. His first time was in our sixth volume, and she wrote an article called "The Culture of the Heart: Including Yourself in the Harmony of Connection." Now, it's at this point that I often put in a quote, and I'm going to just go through your articles first, and then I'm going to come back on the quotes because I think they sort of tie in a little bit together. So your next one was in our 7th volume, and that was about nonlinear communication and how horses remind us of our innate relationship with life. And we are so lucky to have you again in our upcoming 11th volume. And the summaries are out now, or previews, so we will put a link to that later. But your piece this time is relational intelligence, and horses are masters of embodied intellect. So when I looked over these, and I read over these yesterday, and usually I go in to find a quote, but 2 words in each of them struck me. And I thought, let's share those. So the first one was embodied harmony. And the second one, it was emotional weather. And the third one, it was embodied intellect. And those 3, I feel as I'm looking at I'm looking at my screen now and how I've typed them out, there's a string attaching each of those. There's an invisible string I can see, or I can feel, that's attaching those. I don't know if we want to speak to that now or let it just sprinkle into how we go on here, and I'll let that up to you.
Well, actually, where do you want to start? Like, pick a starting point in
Okay.
those 3.
Well, let me ask her for prompt, and maybe
Okay.
that will help float in. And
Yeah.
I love to start, and I know you have so many stories, but share us this one powerful story, one time that you were just like, yes, that's like one time with horses that you just sort of it comes up from your heart first.
Oh gosh.
It's so hard, I know.
Um, there are 2 that jump straight to the forefront, but the one that I'm going to share was with Navarre. Navarre, I met because a woman bought this horse. He was a thoroughbred, and he was 10 years old when she bought the thoroughbred for her daughter. And it was a situation where the daughter was 18, and when her mom bought the thoroughbred, the daughter stomped her foot and said, "Oh, I wanted the warm blood," because somebody else bought the warm blood. And so the daughter lost interest very quickly in the thoroughbred. So mom had him gelded and did stuff actually, no, he had been gelded just recently before she bought him, an eventer. And mom did her best caring for this horse that the daughter really wasn't interested in. But he was recently gelded and put in inappropriate hands. And when he was just over it, he would rear. And he was with a girl who was taking care of him, who just, probably didn't know where to put herself when a horse is rearing. And he ended up grazing her forehead with a hoof, which then, of course, meant he was the bad guy. And one thing happened after another. He became injured and ended up just living in a stall for like a year. And it was, granted, it was like a 14 by 30 foot area, which is still a prison. It's a large horse prison for a whole year where mom took care of him and fed him and, still gave him love, but everybody was scared to death of him. Everybody was absolutely afraid that he was going to come out and just smash everybody on the top of their head and crack skulls. So nobody was willing to get him out. So that's when the mom met me and asked, will you please come get him out of the stall? And I said, well, yeah, let me come and meet him and see what the situation is here. So one evening, the barn was super quiet. It was sundown and it was absolutely stunningly beautiful. And I went in the barn and said hi to him through the gate, just opened his stall gate and stepped right in, walked all the way to the back. And this is what the horse I met was so soft and just pleading, like, why are you here? What are we doing? So I just stood in the back of his stall and I let him know, like, I'm here to meet you and see if you'd like to, you know, take some steps and get out of this barn. He put his forehead in my chest and just cried and just is like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So I just stood with him for a moment and stroked his ears and his cheeks and had a depth of exchange where we just shared, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. There was no planning or negotiation. It was, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. So I said, okay, buddy, I'm going to come back in the morning and we're going to get you out of here. I just cry because the feelings are just so as rich as they were on those days. So I come back the next morning and the mom had said, okay, Navarre's coming out of the stall this morning. So there were a couple people walking around, you know, waiting to watch the show.
Yeah.
And I walked in and he had just a really nice rope halter, you know, walked in, put the halter on him, said, okay, buddy, are you ready? And he's like, yeah, but it was cute and tragic at the same time. He's standing there looking at me and his eyes were super worried because he's like, okay, but I'm going to rear. and, and I could just feel his despair that him being him was a problem.
Yeah.
So I just rubbed him on his shoulder, said, all right, thank you for telling me. Let's go. And we walked out of the stall, and his stall was near the front part of the barn. So it was, 10 or 12 steps before he was out from under the ceiling.
Yeah.
And as soon as he was out, whoosh, and he's suddenly 16 feet tall and just stretching and moving himself. And I'm just there with 3 fingers on the lead rope, just making sure he's not getting tangled. There are people 20 feet away from us who were backpedaling. That's how much energy Navarre was just letting out. So he came down, put his feet back down, blew out. And he looked at me and he goes, I just put my arm over his back and I'm like, oh, that was amazing, buddy. And he looked at me and he's like, I'm going to go up again. And I'm like, okay, you go. And whew, up he went again. But it was sweet. That time he's like, oh, this is good. And he just came back down and I put my arm over his back again. And he looked at me and he's like, okay. I said, okay. And we just went and grazed. Mm-hmm. And he ended up staying with me for 8 years as the world's most dangerous horse, right? But I think why that is so meaningful is the depth of heart of just letting myself be seen in those moments when he was hoping I would see him, who he really is. And that is an exchange that's, what all of this work is about. Mm-hmm. Letting ourselves be seen, not necessarily because it's a therapeutic thing, not necessarily because horses are healers, but because that we get to meet them. That's our common ground with all of life, is whether or not in my head I am hiding from myself. Here's all of me. Yeah. And I'm going to let you see what you see in me. I'm not going to tell you who I am and tell you what to see. I'm just going to give you all the space for you to find for yourself who I am and what I'm about. And that is as much of a gift from us to them as they offer to us.
To us. Yeah. Yeah. That's the word beautiful isn't the right word for that. I don't think there is a word for it.
Mm. It's very, very real. And I
Yeah.
think realness is what's behind beautiful.
True.
Things that are genuine, things that can't,
Yes.
that there have no story, there's no pretense.
Yeah. I mean, when you were talking about that, about coming out of the stall, and what came to my mind, I used to work with youth, and it was these expectations that were piled on and on and on, and therefore who they truly were, it was buried. And like to see, it was the seeing that what I call bearing witness to, and with nothing except I'm here and you're
Mhm,
here. And
mhm,
I just saw that, like these, growing up these days,
mm.
with these expectations put on us.
Oh my God, since forever.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's weave in emotional weather at this point,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? When when well, let me start this way. Before we're told what to think about ourselves and what to not think about ourselves
Mhm.
and who we should be and what it should look like and what pleases the big people and what displeases the adults,
Yeah.
before all of that, emotion moves through us unhindered. And it is simply an expression of honesty,
Yeah.
right? Something falls on my hand, ow, and my body goes whoa. The
Yeah.
emotional energy moves through as a natural, multi-dimensional, energetic remedy
Mhm.
for stuck energy.
Yeah.
And we call it sad, frustrated, angry,
Yeah.
resentful, all the things.
Yeah.
We have words for it. That is just completely pure emotional weather, like
Yeah.
a thunderstorm on a summer afternoon.
Exactly.
And then it blows away and it's coming and it's leaving. So there's no holding on to it.
Mhm.
There's no opinion about it. Well, maybe if you wanted to do something and you got to wait 10 minutes for the rain to pass or whatever, you might have an opinion about that.
Yeah.
But the weather itself has no opinion. And before we're taught, we have no opinion. We just feel how it feels and off you go, right? When it gets sticky is with the application of opinion that says that I hate that thunderstorm came right now.
Yeah.
I wish I lived in a place with no thunderstorms because I don't want thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Thunder's bad, right?
Messed up my day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And so what that's what that is like is it's like holding on, putting a charge in the air that keeps the thunderstorm going. And we feel it. It feels like density. It feels like something might have power over us. We end up feeling powerless to it, which is so completely the opposite of true, right?
Yeah.
What's happening is we are empowering the thunderstorm by maintaining an opinion that it should be different than it is.
Hmm.
And so when you get to kids, in school, I mean, and even kids who have been around for multiple decades, but
Yeah.
still are emotionally functioning like a kid
Yeah.
because their thunderstorms remain charged.
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? And they don't really know how to stop charging them because it's not really taught that our opinions empower that charge, that thunders. It's the opinions and the judgments that it should be different than it is. It keeps the weather from blowing right through.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so that's where the term, emotional weather came for me, was whether it's, again, whether it's the anger or the resentment or grief. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grief sticks around for a while, right?
Yeah.
But whether it's happening through my own world, and I would call it my emotional web. That's the other thing humans love to do. We love to own things. This is my emotion.
Yeah, you can't have it.
My, right?
Yeah.
And I can't give it up. It's mine. I'm, how could I not be sad? This is my sadness. This happened to me.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing wrong with that. It's just we have a strong propensity to relate to the outside world in that way, and to relate to energy and movement in that way. But if for a moment we just exhale and relate in a different way to just recognize, well, that thunderstorm isn't mine. So I'm just going to sit back and watch it move through. Ooh, yeah, I'm getting wet. Ooh, that was a scary clap of thunder. But I'm going to sit back and I'm going to, watch it move through. And it's not my thunderstorm. It's not Linda's thunderstorm. It's a thunderstorm. Yeah. Right. So taking that to emotions, it's a very different way to relate to familiar experiences than what we were taught. So grief. I mean, so many emotions in grief.
Just in it, yeah.
Loneliness, sadness, loss. And maybe there is all the resentments that, it wasn't different than it was. Maybe hopelessness, maybe helplessness.
Of course.
Right? So what if all of that grief comes into the room when my friend shows up? Right? A familiar way of relating to this would be that my friend is grieving. That is my friend's grief. And I can be there with my friend. When we look at this and just play with it, because I'm not trying to deny any approach, right? The best approach is the one that lightens your heart. That whatever approach it is that actually serves to lighten our heart and relieve our mind. That's the one I would point anybody to. But when we're playing with this idea of emotional weather, then if I'm in a room and my friend walks in the room with a lot of grief, well, then there's grief present. Rather than saying it's mine or my friend's, I can acknowledge there's grief present. There's a thunderstorm present. And when I adopt that perspective and I relate to grief, not with any kind of ownership, mine or somebody else's, but to simply relax into my own heart and acknowledge, there is grief filling this room right now. I can ask a different question, because a lot of times people wonder, like, oh, my friend is grieving. What do I do? What do I do for my friend? What do I do to protect myself? What do I do? What do I do? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When we shift that perspective and just recognize that there is grief present here, right? There's a thunderstorm happening. There's grief happening. And I let it be weather. I can ask the question, what's my relationship with grief? What is my relationship with grief? Which is very different than how do I help my friend with their grief?
Yeah.
When I look at my relationship with grief, myself, I go straight to my heart and get curious what aspect of grief is feeling unloved right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And where can I infuse love? Not to heal or fix or anything, but to acknowledge that there are these aspects of grief that are feeling an absence of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how can I recall and generate love through my own being,
Mm-hmm.
with my body as an instrument to share this frequency of love
Yeah.
without the need to fix it or even understand it?
Of course, yeah.
We can all sense these nuances.
Yeah.
And the only thing that slows it down is trying to understand it. Understanding always will come. But in the moment when grief walks in the room, hello, grief. And then I reorganize so my awareness is with my heart. And through my heart, I can recognize, oh, this thunderstorm needs to just drop some rain. Okay, I got that. I'm going to let it. Maybe I'm going to get an umbrella for a moment. I'm going to let it.
Let it rain. Yeah.
And let my body simply emanate love, knowing that that love will find its way into and through any aspect of the emotional weather that's blowing through for the moment. Not mine, not my friends. There's no ownership. It is stepping into this place we all talk about, we call unity or oneness, in a very active contribution where I just recognize, aha, this is what is in the moment. There's a lot of weather happening. So I will reorient to the core of my own uniqueness and the instrument of my love. Let it fill my body and emanate outwardly like the sun as a contribution to this weather.
Yep.
Like the sun shining on the top of those thunderclouds.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And the sun shining on the ground around it, heating up the ground, heating up the cloud on the top. So the thundercloud does its thing, moves all that water, and then moves on.
Exactly.
That's the nature of emotional energy.
Yeah.
And when we relate to it, that's the whole point of the term emotional weather, is to relate to it differently, without opinion, without ownership, and without a need for it to be anything different than it is.
And it's so interesting. Everything you've said, I keep going to my heart keeps going to your story of Navarro and how all the weather he was having to take on. He had his own weather, but he
Right.
had all this weather, like those people staying around and all the weather through that whole time.
Well, and the sadness and the helplessness of the mom,
Well,
who
yeah,
she
yeah.
knows this is a beautiful horse
Yeah.
and she's helpless. Her daughter's not doing anything. And, and that we can't tell the animals to not absorb the emotional energy.
And get
You
stuck
can't
in a
tell them.
storm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of how they live in service with love, is offering relief to all the heaviness that humans carry.
Yeah.
They let us love them, which means love moves through us. Yeah. It is a service, and not that they are designed to be servants. There's a difference between service and servitude.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So we can't tell them, okay, I love you, but don't take on any of my heavy stuff. You can't tell them that.
It doesn't work that way.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the more we love and we let them love us, the lighter the load for everybody.
Of course. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Such a reflection. Such a parallel to what we see. So let's move through our emotional weather and move on to just your story. You've shared with us how at 13 you asked this question, but I'd love to know what brought you, you went from there to the work you're doing now, and we'll get to that part, but can you share with us a little bit of that story?
In less than an hour.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, it was a ringer. It was being in the ringer. Because like many of us, many of the people who are listening, being incredibly sensitive and awake person, I was born into a family who did not understand me at all, who misunderstood me. It seemed intentionally, and perhaps sometimes it was. So going through teenage years, I rode a bit, went to UC Davis to study veterinary medicine because, like most of us, that there's the suggestion that if you love animals, that's what you do. You become a veterinarian, right? All the while surviving the family environment that was not preparation for a healthy life in any way. It had extreme anxiety. It was only able to function at school for a little bit. And people would ask me, Kerri, why can't you just be happy? Like, you have everything you need. You're going to a great school, all the things, why can't you just be happy? And I did my best. I've always been pretty good with words because I feel the word first. Learn this from the horses. Well, not really from the horses. I learned this through my inquiry that horses assisted me with exquisitely. And so I remained very dedicated to choosing words that represented what was absolutely true to me. And that didn't go over very well. Not a lot of people understood me. Like, I think no people understood me until I was in my early 30s. And when I was in my early 30s, I was teaching little riding lessons. I think I had 3 students in the Bay Area and in California. And one of them was a woman who was an acupuncturist. She watched my effect on this small rescue barn that I was managing. And when I arrived, every animal, there were more than 50 animals on 3/4 of a usable acre, like 19 horses and 12 goats and 4 dogs and 2 geese and 30 cats and 30 chickens. It was crazy. And once I got there, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what to do. And I just brought everybody back to a state of health, or at least serviceable health, So she said to me, Kerri, you're a healer, right? And at this point, the extreme anxiety I had been through, no, that word's not allowed. No, you're not allowed to say that word about me. Like, you tell me I'm good with animals, that's all that's allowed. Okay, that's it. Yeah. But she persisted. And I'm like, and she's like, Kerri, do you see what you did here? And I'm like, well, obviously I did that. That's what you do. That's what anybody would do. She's like, no, not everybody can do that. And so she was the first one that offered me the words, Kerri, you're a healer. You're just used to healing with your being. And when she said that to me, I'm like, okay, she is actually seeing something. Because I had lived my life like many of the people in this community, in 2 different realms. There was the front facing, which was just trying to get along and, appear to be a functional human being. And then behind the curtain was this profound essence of love that was doing what I just described when we were talking about emotional weather.
Yeah.
Being the love, being an instrument of love. And what I did know is that I could walk in and feel any disharmony and meet it with a matching harmony that canceled the disharmony out. And I called it isolating frequencies. But nobody had ever, mentioned anything close to that before. So that's what she called it, healing with your being. So that was when I started acknowledging, like, maybe I am who I know I am. Maybe I do have something that somebody might recognize someday and let me help, outwardly, and let me be of assistance without having to pretend that I learned it somewhere and I don't know what I'm doing. And, I spent most of my life just telling people, no, I don't really know what I'm doing, when I knew exactly what I was doing. So, anyway, it's just too much to squeeze into a 10 little blurb. I had a 9-year abusive marriage that ended when I walked away. I called the police to help me walk away.
Yeah.
And all of that, I was, how did I have any money? I don't know. I grew up in a family with financial abuse, and I didn't have a relationship with money or self-care or, having a home. What? Kerri, having a home was not a thing. So what was a thing was that love that I knew, and that I knew was absolutely who I am, which takes us to the embodied harmony part.
Yeah.
That is who I've always known myself to be. And through my inquiry as a kid with the horses, and later when I did realize that people had vocabulary to teach me about this stuff, and there were people who knew what I was talking about and they could help me express myself. When I did learn all of that, that's when I started realizing and started to formulate what my version of assistance could look like in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And because it is then crafted and pulled out of the universe without a previous mold, the way that I share. And somebody reminded me of a phrase the other day that I absolutely love. And I think it's absolutely true, that if the way in front of you is clear, it's somebody else's path. If the path in front of you is clear, it's somebody else's path, and that they've already cleared it. Right. So when we really are on a trajectory of authenticity and sovereignty and clarity, it is going to be unclear. And just keep going.
Yeah. And I think to get finding our way, like staying with the horses, but in a comment that so often we have to see the way, or somebody else will show me the way. But that's their way that they're showing you. So it's actually stepping back and going, no, I'm going to find my way and go through all that emotional weather and all that, and find that harmony. But
well, I love it, because you just cleared the space for the embodied intellect. So I know, look at you go. So when we are looking for somebody else to show us the way, which I did forever, it's like, I'll be in the barn until somebody needs me, right? When we're looking to somebody else's way, that is, what do I want to call it? I don't want to call it disembodied intellect, because that's not really what I mean. But it is a borrowed intellect. It is recognizing pathways that already exist, that, absolutely, I can go that direction. And there are so many beautiful, like, please, again, like, choose the path that calls to you, your mind or your heart or your body, all of it, because going in the direction it calls to you is only going to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also true that when we learn another system, whether it's a healing system, or an intellectual system, or getting a degree,
Yeah. Yeah.
learning a profession, mastering a craft, mastering a trade, right? When the purpose, when a person knows their own heart and they're here for authenticity and actual genuine expression of divine essence, what I have found anyway is that the purpose of every system is transcendence, is learn the system so you can transcend it. When I was learning with Penelope Smith, animal communication, who I was very blessed to learn from for about 18 months and work very closely with her and followed what she had created as an amazing, beautiful, grounded way to learn animal communication. The further I went through that and into it, I kept realizing the whole point of this is, Kerri, will you trust yourself?
Of course. Yeah.
Will you trust yourself? Yeah. Because I tried not trusting myself. I tried giving my power away over and over and over to say, well, no, this person is the master and they know more. So I should probably defer and maybe I'm not right. And I'll just keep questioning myself, which is what I was taught from childhood. Yeah. Here's a quote from my dad, Kerri, whatever your first instinct is, it's probably wrong. Go back and do it again. Okay. Which is exactly the opposite of my essence, right? Yeah. Yeah. So this is why I say from experience, whether you're learning acupuncture or quantum touch or mathematics,
yeah, whatever. Yeah.
The purpose of every system is to support your transcendence of that system, to discover who you are and function, have your mind function in service to where your heart takes you. That's what I call embodied intellect. Okay. So when your mind is working in service to that light that knows how to meet disharmony with harmony.
Mm-hmm. And is it not that every system, a true system, should always look to evolve through those that are practicing it, for want of a better word, or living it, that a system, if we look to nature, a system evolves. It isn't stagnant.
It's never stagnant, right?
Interesting.
I love what you just said there. What that just sparked in me speaks very much to this project that I have called Redefining Intelligence. And that's related to the article that will be in issue 11. Is it issue episode? I don't remember what you call it.
It's volume.
Volume. Very good. There you go. Thank you.
It's evolving.
In volume 11, Redefining Intelligence is suggesting that rather than humans using language, right? We're the only ones really worried about abstract definitions, right? But rather than looking at intelligence as a hierarchy where some are more intelligent than others, and the ones that are more intelligent happen to function more like humans. But rather than that, what if we define intelligence in a relational way, where intelligence is a function of how we perceive information, how we relate to it, and how we apply it. Because absolutely everything perceives information, relates to it, and applies it.
Of course.
And so, rocks perceives weight and stress, and they're not going to necessarily, at least I don't know how we would measure it. Maybe they would perceive, infrared light and and relate to it somehow. I don't know. We don't know that till we figure out how to measure it
Yeah,
ourselves, right? Or perceive it ourselves.
exactly.
But when we look at intelligence from this lens of relationship rather than identify and solve problems,
Yeah.
then we put ourselves as a species back into what you just talked about, into the systems of nature.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we start to see and recognize ourselves as a contribution to that evolution.
Exactly.
Where currently, how many people look at the human species and say, oh, that's the bane of existence. The planet would be better without humans, and engage in this self hatred
Yes.
and this self recrimination when nature has never excluded humans at all. Nature will welcome us and recognize us as family the moment we re-include ourselves.
Yeah.
The hiccup is through this perhaps acupuncture point of intelligence that humans generally see as something that separates us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We go to nature. We aren't nature.
exactly.
Yeah.
So when we start realizing how we relate through our intellect rather than separate through our intellect, then perhaps we start recognizing ourselves again as that, as a you know functioning member of the family of all of life.
Absolutely. And to just, to me, like if I go sit in the herd and sit in the field with a herd of horses, I'm becoming it right there.
Yes.
It takes no more than to sit in that field and just wash away the other and go, I'm with the bees, I'm with the birds, I'm with the grass, I'm with the earth, I'm with the horses, and they're just I am part of this community.
Yes. Yes. That absolutely describes the embodied harmony. That's that feeling that you are pointing to, sitting with the herd. The wind is blowing. The horses are munching. That exquisite sound when they tear the grass.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you hear their mouth pull the grass up into their molars. And then they exhale and swish their tail.
Yeah.
You swat a fly away and the wind rustles the leaves. You lean back against the tree or the rock.
Yeah.
And you experience the absence of conflict.
Exactly.
That's embodied harmony.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is also embodied intellect. At the same time, my mind is simply watching what's happening and recognizing it as what's happening. And if another human walks up, it is my embodied intellect that can say, oh, this is a horse. I am a human. That's a rock. That's a beautiful service of the intellect. And when the intellect is as integrated and embodied as the heart, we experience ourselves in the absence of conflict. And even emotional weather can move through with no conflict and no opinion, no need to stick around. It even gets exciting. Like, whoa, look at all of that shame. Wow. Yeah, that shame has motivated me for a long time. And you know what? Thank you. You're welcome to leave. And then I exhale, and the horses munch, and then they breathe. That's right.
Yep.
That's right. That's integration.
Yeah. And that wind, I remember once standing just in front of in a field, and the wind, and letting that wind blow that
Mm,
all through me. And it was you could feel the wind blowing through the cells.
mm,
And you're like, oh, it's just like, no, I got that. You just
hmm.
you
Yep.
just yeah, you just be you. Just be nature.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay. So good. Let's move on a little bit here
Oh, okay.
to to the space you hold for people now. I'm
Mm,
going to be very cognizant of the words I use when speaking of the space we hold with horses, and taking the word, trying less to use the word work and
mm,
have
mm.
tos and all those expectations.
Yeah.
So what do you do now for those that don't know or listening to this that might not know of your work, um, have
Hmm.
your essence with them? What
Hmm.
is it that you offer everything? I was going to say humanity, but I think no, you offer for the horses, for humans, for every being. What is it
Mm.
that you do now?
Yeah, thank you. If we're playing with words, I'm going to shift another word that you just used. And instead of holding space, I'm going to talk about generating space,
Mhm.
which I think is an apt way to describe what I offer. Whether it looks like sometimes it looks like one-on-one appointments with people, either in person or on Zoom. I am just finishing up the first iteration of a year-long program with a group of amazing people. It's called Activating and Facilitating Feel. And through the year, what we've done is weave the intellect with the heart and the essence, offering the intellect a different way to relate to familiar things that relieves conflict, that creates a way of organizing the mind with itself, really is what it comes down to, but helping the mind be able to relate to this function of nature as a human in a way that denies nothing in our everyday life. So the context of the programs is horses,
Mhm.
partially because that's a massive comfort zone for me,
Sure. Yeah.
and also largely because the horses make it so easy. They give us such an amazing context for these ideas, these concepts, and the practices.
Mhm.
But there are people in these programs who have nothing to do with horses. They just recognize the absence of conflict in the offering. There's an innate part of us that knows it doesn't have to be this hard. We're not meant to live hating ourselves for the rest of our lives, right? And then taking a pill to fix it. We're not meant to do that.
Yeah.
There's a different way. That is what all of my work points to, is being human differently, which was the name of the talk I did for the Journey On Podcast Summit a few years
Yeah.
ago. And um, that really is the whole thing, is integrating these changes in consciousness that we're all going through and offering tools and guidance, not so people can be like Kerri, but so people can recognize that essence in themselves,
Mhm.
and through their own commitment to their own heart,
Yeah.
continue to blaze their own trail.
Yeah. Yeah. Evolve themselves, not the
That's
systems.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So you do, I know you go different places and do workshops with horses.
Yeah.
What do those look like?
For a number of years, my favorite one has been a 3.5 day
Hmm.
event. Um, Different titles for different audiences, but effectively it's coming together, and I offer deliberately as little structure as is necessary to keep us going forward. So day one is introductions, and I get to listen to everybody because I don't really know what the weekend is going to be until I meet the people in front of me.
Yeah. Oh.
Right. This is what it's like to not have a set trail, to not have a system that I'm asking people to learn. It's different than that. It's show up. Here's me. I always talk too much. And then I have to stop myself and listen. Then I listen to everybody, what's inspiring them, what they're curious about. And that is what forms the weekend. And from there, we generally among horses. Sometimes people bring their own horses. Sometimes we just go out in the field. Mm-hmm. But the weekend is all about teaching these 3 or 4 profoundly simple tools mm-hmm. that help a person get organized for integration, for the absence of judgment, and for watching themselves walk as an instrument of love. And the horses always support that. We're not always among horses, but generally we are. So that's what that has looked like. And there's online programs like that year-long program. There's another one starting up in January called Activating and Facilitating Feel. I've taught courses in person and online called Courage to Feel. Courage to Feel is very much helping the mind have a different way to talk about familiar things, like the relationship between feeling and emotion. We use those words interchangeably, but they're not the same thing.
No.
The relationship between judgment and discernment, intellect and intuition. How do we relate to those, and how do they serve each other? Which is different than how do we define them, right? Relating to things is different than defining them. Definitions help. But what really accelerates personal evolution is functioning in relationship. That's what all of the things I do are about. Yeah.
Who am I in this?
That's right.
In each of these. Yeah.
That's exact. Who am I? What am I? What's important to me? Yeah. What am I not willing to compromise?
Yeah.
What am I committed to? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I in the absence of horses? Who am I in the absence of shame? Who am I in the absence of love? Yep. Is that even possible? Right? Yeah. So it's these kinds of questions that, the more you play with this stuff, it gets lighter. Yep. And simpler. Doesn't mean it's always easy. Right? Everybody gets to thread the needle and go through the narrows on their own path, but you're never alone. And the tools and the discussions and the group interactions we do help people prove to themselves what it's like to not ever have to be alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Because your mind ends up discovering it wants to serve the heart, and all this other conflicted emotional stuff that we get taught. It remains compelling, but we start to really get super clear that which is the love that I am and everything else.
Yeah, everything else out there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And horses help that because they are never other than who they are. And that congruence and that frequency of congruence and integration, we know it. Our system knows it. And when we put ourselves among that, it can amplify what we already know of ourselves. And it just can make it easier to isolate the frequencies and move in that direction.
The previews for this year's volume of Equine Leadership consistently, and I have not asked for this, which sort of blows me away. And every year it happens that there is some through line. There is something that I have not asked for, but has come forward from the collective. And it speaks, the reason I bring that up is it speaks to a remembering,
Mm.
which to me it's like that's we know, and we know when it feels right and it feels good.
Right.
And the horses, the horses are the perfect space to, for want of a better word, practice authenticity.
Mm.
I can be there and safe and go, this is who I am.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
you can take a break from doubting and questioning yourself,
yeah,
even for a few moments next to a horse.
yeah,
Like, yeah, this is who I am. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for noticing that. Thank you.
And they do notice. That's the beauty. They do notice. They give all those signs and go, there you are. I
Exactly.
knew
Oh,
you were
that's the
in there.
best. That is the best moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that's the golden moment of any interaction, with a client or a friend or
Mhm.
somebody,
Yeah.
even somebody who's lived their whole life with horses, and they give themselves even a little bit more space for the horses to see them.
Yeah.
And you watch that change when they realize the horse is like, oh, there you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
changes everything. It's like the
Yeah,
universe
exactly.
opens up this whole new energy. It's exquisite,
Well,
absolutely exquisite.
and the beauty is you can take that away. You could take that feeling away. You can take that moment in time and sort of put it in, and I'm holding my hands together for those that are like, you can just sort of put it in a little bundle and go in your heart and go, okay, now don't forget that. Let's have more of
Yeah,
those. Let's find more
yeah,
of those. And those moments go, oh, and every one of those moments, I feel for me, it's those horses are going, I'm still here. You
yeah.
might not see me, but I'm still here. And there you are again.
You're right there. There you are. Yeah, once you feel it, you can't unfeel it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Will you, or are you able to share a little bit about you have a podcast that I believe has led to another organization that you've started? Is that
Yeah.
the,
I have a lot of podcasts.
the Compass,
Compass
I
Conversations,
believe is that led to,
Intuitive Learning
yes,
Foundation.
there you go.
Yep. Yeah. Compass started after the first Journey on Summit, and that was an offering that I created to facilitate more conversations among professional peers who were just not interested in competing with each other, who wanted to learn with and from each other. So there's 25 episodes, and it started very much about the horses with a set group of people who were speakers at the summit.
Mhm.
And then it branched into other people who are, in my circles, who are amazing.
Mhm.
And then it branched into education, which Intuitive Learning Foundation, the first vision of that was to create a way, to offer a way to create a parallel education to what we're currently used to, which is educate the mind for what is correct and incorrect. And this is how you live your life based on correct and incorrect. When really we are all intuitive beings by nature. There's just not a common or easily accessible intuitive education.
Yeah.
So rather than try to, like the Buckminster Fuller quote, rather than try to fix a broken system, create a new one that makes the old system obsolete.
Mhm.
In that same sort of wisdom, we created Intuitive Learning Foundation as a container or a platform that can offer in ways of learning intuitively that can be parallel with any other education, right? You're learning mathematics. Well, okay, good. Let's look at intuition in the context of mathematics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a beautiful collaboration with a professor in Canada,
Mhm.
and she teaches uh, youth culture and activism. Was the name of the course.
Okay.
We offered a module in that course about the relationship between judgment and discernment,
Mhm.
and offered the contemplation. what changes if you go forward in your activism from judgment? How is that the same or different from going forward in your activism through discernment? And we offered a little bit of framework around that. And her class, about half of her class chose to include that contemplation in their final project. So when people go to intuitivelearningfoundation.com, we chose 3 of those final projects to display because they just moved our hearts with the way these young people contemplated and really looked at the ripple effect of doing activism from, judgment versus discernment. So I encourage people to go read those projects. It's very heartening.
Yeah. Nice. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
It ties me back to he's a young gentleman. I think he's Welsh. He's a naturalist, and he wrote a book. I'll put it in there because I'm gonna the Journal of the Young Naturalist, I think it was. But his comment, and it jumps in here, so because I think it ties into everything else, is that we can't make the change from a place of fear. We can only make that change, advocacy, whether we're advocating or whatever it is, from a place of joy, tying into love. Then we make sustainable change. And whether we're talking bigger systems, whether we're talking our own system, I think it ties into the harmony and the getting rid of the conflicts and all that, and making that choice to come from there. So, that's a sort of
that feels absolutely foundationally true to me, because everything else, until we allow ourselves to be held in that crucible of love, everything else is a construct trying to fix a problem. But love is not trying to fix a problem. Love doesn't even think anything is a problem. Love recognizes, oh, there's some conflict. Okay. Well, you can keep doing that as long as you want to, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? That's, at least in my experience, that's the conversation of love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love is the space within which everything else is happening. So if we do want to see true transformational change, then having a relationship with love where there's no judgment, regardless of what you choose, invariably that creates the space for the highest and best good, for what genuinely lights you up, for your own authentic joy.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm cognizant of our time here. But you had said you had 2 stories. I'd love to finish if you have time to do the second story.
I could take 30 minutes to tell this story.
Oh, no.
The second one is one that a lot of people already have heard, but it's Dufresne's story. If people want to read this story, it's on my website under on the blog page. But it's this story of going to a monthly livestock auction with a friend who wanted to get a second backyard horse. And we went 2 months in a row and saw this one little horse herded into the auction block both months. He was young, about 2 years old. The first month he was not gelded. The second month he was gelded. The first month he was with a second horse. The second month he was by himself. And he was just so traumatized, running around, frenzied. But I could feel him, and I could see his eye, and I could feel him, and he was all there. He was running around like, "Go, you people! What the hell are you doing?" Right? And so the auctioneer started the bidding. He said, okay, let's start the bidding at 500, 400, blah, blah, blah. And you could just feel, the people in the room were like, yeah, not for that thing. And so the auctioneer's like, okay, 300, 200, 100. And finally he stops, he slows down. And mind you, at this time in my life, I was trying to leave an abusive marriage. I didn't know. I was living at the friend's house. I didn't know if I would be going back to the marriage. I didn't have a car because I was not allowed to take the car, all these things.
Yeah.
And so the auctioneer is like, okay, people, who's going to take this guy home for $50? And my arm goes in the air, like not of my own volition. And so bang, the gavel comes down. and he's like, okay, sold. And I'm like, whoa, what? So I didn't have a home, but now I had a horse, as one does. And when I went to the auction office to pay, everybody's eyes got big and they're like, oh, you're the one. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, honey, be careful. He's going to kill you. Just be careful because our guys had a hard time with this horse. So I'm like, okay. I went out to check him out in his paddock. He was standing by himself, 13 hands. And one of the cowboys walked by and he had his rope and he goes, you be careful with that guy. It took 6 of us to put him in a trailer. So you let me know when you're ready and we'll rope him for you. These 13 hands. So I just said, okay, thank you. And took my plastic halter. I had to buy a $7 plastic halter because I didn't go there to buy a horse, right? So I went in, I stood about 15 feet from him where I could get a good look at him. And he had hair stripped off his back. He had a white sock, but you couldn't tell because it was soaked in blood. His mouth had been wired shut. He'd been gelded and that wound was not doing well. On and on and on. But he was so alive. And he's standing there, not moving a muscle. He knows what humans are. He knows what humans can do. He knows it's not good. I'm not moving my feet. Because I think where he had been, was the Mexican rodeo where they have this event called tripping, where a horse is just whipped until he runs and runs and runs. And then the human will rope the horse's front feet, pull the feet out from under him, and the horse goes crashing down. So I think this horse just refused to run. He'd rather stand there and be whipped than run and taken down. And so we found him his way back to the auction because he wasn't useful anymore. Yeah. So he was standing stock still. So I did the same. And I just let him see me. Same with, I talked about with Navarre. Mm-hmm. I just stood there. And in this horse's gaze, I was forced to look at myself. Because he knows what humans are. Yeah. And he knows what humans are capable of. And I showed up looking quite a lot like a human. So he's watching me, and it made me ask myself some questions. Have I ever been bad to horses? Yes, I have. I was taught how to do that. And that's different than why I'm here today. Have I ever lost control? Have I ever, on and on and on. I had to ask myself all these questions because this is what he was asking me. Yeah. He wanted to know, who are you? And I had to just let myself see everything he was seeing and acknowledge it. Wow. It was a lot. So I stepped out, took a break, had my friend pull the trailer around, and I had to ask this little horse to walk with me out this paddock, around the paddock, turn and go through the scary barn where all the animals are unhappy and there's clanging metal all over, into a loading chute, and then step up into this trailer. She brought a 4-horse stock trailer. Mm-hmm. So I could see the cowboys looking out from around the pillars, waiting for me to die. It was actually a little satisfying, if I'm honest. But I went back in his paddock and walked up about 10 feet from him. He had not moved his feet. And everybody's expecting the cowboy thing, make the horse move the horse's feet, get his attention. And no, didn't ask for a single movement from him. But I walked up about 10 feet from him and I took my plastic halter and I showed it to him. And I said this silently. I need to ask you to wear this and come with me as we walk out this paddock and around the corner, up through the barn and around another corner into a trailer where you're going to hear bang, bang. You're going to feel it move. There is hay. You eat the hay as we drive. And I'm going to take you to a field where the grass is 2 feet high and you're going to have a friend. Is a 2-year-old quarter horse mare. That's where you get to rest. Would you like to come with me? And I said all of that in whoever knows whatever the time span was, showing him the halter. Yeah. He contemplated for a moment, still hadn't moved, hadn't turned his head, nothing.
No.
He was watching me with his left eye. And after a breath, this part that gets me every time, he just gave me his ear. He just said, okay. And at that point, my job, my entire job on the entire planet, my existence was to live out the movie I just showed him. Moment for moment, breath for breath. And that's exactly what I did. I walked over, I put the halter on him, and I turned toward the gate with full expectation that he's with me because he gave me his ear.
Yeah.
He gave me his word. I'm going to give him mine.
Yeah.
There was not a pound of pressure on the line. We walked together. Mm-hmm. He came behind me out the gate, around the paddock. We turned to go up into the scary barn, and there was a moment, something clanged, and he, boom, startled, splay. Yeah. And that, in that moment, I turned and I looked at him, but our energy, my job was to keep moving forward, not soothe him, not convince, but keep the current moving. Mm-hmm. And I did that, not even a breath of pressure on the line. And I just said, come on, silently. Yeah. And he came right with me. There were 6 cowboys sitting on the fence, waiting for me to die. And by the time we got to the trailer, he had come around from behind me, was walking next to me on my right side. Yeah. And we stepped into the trailer side by side. Yeah. He put his head down, started munching, gave me his ear again, said, got it. I got it. Okay, I got it. And I just stepped out, closed the trailer, went and got into the truck, drove him to a place where he had 5 acres of pasture with the grass this high. There's a photo on the blog post. Yeah. And all I really remember was silence from the humans. That I am so grateful and I feel so honored that I have that story to share, because there's a lot of extenuating circumstances to that story and that unfoldment. But it is a profound example of what honesty creates in interspecies connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that is such a perfect note to end this on. I think.
It is the embodiment of harmony.
Yeah.
And the embodiment of intellect in the presence of emotional weather.
Well, that's a perfect sum up.
Because it's true.
Think we'd planned this. For those that are listening, we did not plan that. But when you do let it flow, it flows.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Linda. Always.
Absolutely. And thank you all for joining us in this circle. Whatever moment in time that you are listening to this, I will put a link to all of Kerri's information and the blog, of course, and her articles and stories and all that. There are a number of ways you can stay connected and inspired. You can join our Facebook group, which is called Inspire Me Forward, or our Equine Leadership page. We have a YouTube channel, all the usual ways that you can find people. Consider sharing this episode if you would, as in all episodes. I like to call it share it forward. And you really just never know who needs to hear the words that were shared in this space. And sharing it forward helps us build and ripple out words that are shared and words of love that are shared. As we talked about today, as Kerri talked about, that sort of that evolution, but let it spread forward, let it spread out, and that's how we can share that, because we just never know when one story might be the very thing another human being needs to open their heart to a different, a brighter, a more loving tomorrow. So thank you for being here with us today. From my heart to yours, stay well, stay connected, and stay inspired. Thank you, Kerri.